Hello, everybody, and hello, John George. What are you, a chief? Are you a technician? What is your title?
Well, here at the university, I'm the associate professor of fire science at the UAF Community and Technical College. When I'm not here, I'm also a battalion chief volunteer firefighter with Chena Gulfstream Fire and Rescue.
Volunteer firefighters are a proud tradition in the United States of America, going back to the colonial times. What's it like to be a volunteer firefighter? Oh, nice.
Yeah. What's it like to be a volunteer? Well, giving back to the community is something I've always been a part of, and it's been a part of my life. I actually started as a 16-year-old cadet firefighter, so I've been in the fire service for about 29 years now, and about half of that's been as a volunteer.
Is it a good summer job for teenagers?
Well, being a volunteer firefighter is of course unpaid. So what I always tell people is, if you're looking for work, it's a good way to get good experience and certifications and work towards employment in the fire service. As far as, if you already have a job, I mean, like me, it's really just a sense of giving back. And, it's exciting too. I mean, helping your fellow community members and getting to respond to incidents. My department right now is actually the main water source for the Shovel Creek fire, which is, of course, threatening parts of Fairbanks. And so, for earlier in the week before I was doing this, I was actually helping move water to put out wildland fires.
Much different than a bucket brigade. There's helicopters and stuff now.
Things have changed a little bit in the last several hundred years.
Before we talk about the stuff we're going to talk about today, no one involved with the university can get away from talking about the budget situation that we're in right now, the changes that we may be facing, or the big choices like that. I think it is safe to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the fire department, first responders that work with the university do a lot in the Fairbanks community.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Our students, actually, we were talking about volunteer firefighters. If you look statistically across our nation right now, there's a shortage and a need for volunteer firefighters. People are more busy. There's more things going on in the world. And so, unfortunately, there's less volunteer firefighters than historically what we've had in this country. And Fairbanks is actually very fortunate in that, our community college, our UAF, we have a fire department that has paid student firefighters. And they're out on the Shovel Creek fire right now. They're out protecting our community. We also have a number of fire science students that get scholarships through the local fire departments that help pay for their education. They live at the fire station. And so really, if you look at Fairbanks in general, we don't have some of those same burdens as far as lack of volunteers. We have college students that are coming to Fairbanks that are getting their education in fire science. They're moving on to the Homeland Security degree. And they're protecting the citizens of Fairbanks while they do that. They're getting a working resume. It's really a unique place to get an education, and there really isn't any place in the world like it. But yeah, we're absolutely out there protecting the community. North Star's on that fire, Steve's, Chena Gulfstream University. We're stretched pretty thin here in both the interior and Alaska. We're bringing outside resources at this point.
Need to. I mean, we all see the smoke. We don't see the front lines. That's where you guys put yourselves out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a combination of municipal fire departments, volunteer departments, and of course our wildland firefighters that are out there protecting our community. And obviously it's not just Fairbanks. I mean, Kenai's got a massive fire. There's fires across the state of Alaska that are burning right now. And that's one of the reasons that the fireworks burn that I'm sure people are aware of is out there. And it's kind of unprecedented. We haven't seen this kind of stuff this early before.
And that's exactly why I wanted to talk to you about today, because 4th of July, there's a big 4-day weekend, families getting together, people getting together, they like to have gatherings. Fire is both a dangerous thing in our lives, but it's also very soothing and welcoming. If I want to have a fire this weekend, why can't I?
Well, really what I encourage people to do is to pay attention to the public notices that are coming out. In some areas, a warming fire, i.e. a campfire, in an approved campsite is not necessarily something that can't happen, but we need to pay attention to the weather. We need to pay attention to what the state is telling us as far as burn bans, red flag warnings, the weather conditions. All it takes is a spark and a gust of wind, and we could have a major issue. I was out earlier this summer with my family fishing up on Pile Driver Slough and motoring along, and I saw a little column of smoke off to the bank, and I pulled over, and there was a fire that someone had attempted to put out, a campfire, and they just left it there, and it had already started to burn into the tree roots and into the moss. And so my family and I dug it out and put that fire out. But that's a really good example of, if you're not in an approved, fire ring, if you're not paying attention, if you don't put that fire out, that could end up being a wildland fire in the state of Alaska. So that's why it's important to pay attention to those things.
When I'm camping with friends and stuff, sometimes it takes so long. You got to touch the ashes and make sure they're cold so you know that the fire is out. But we want to get going. We want to get doing our stuff. We're impatient. How do you balance patience versus safety?
Well, I'm kind of a safety guy by nature, so it's really worth taking the extra time to ensure that your fire is out, and to put water on it, feel it, turn things over, stir it up. And again, if there's any doubt, it's better with the conditions we're having and with how stretched our resources are right now in Alaska with wildland firefighting in particular. It's really essential that people take that extra effort, or even maybe don't have a fire this time and wait until conditions are a little safer.
How can I avoid accidentally starting a fire? Not all the time. Not all fire starts intentionally. It's not, let's make some s'mores. Sometimes sparks go flying around. What can I do to minimize that danger?
Well, again, approved fire rings and devices are really the way to go. For more information on wildland in particular.
Let me ask you, so you say an approved fire ring. What if I just go get a bunch of rocks from something nearby in the woods and I build a fire ring with some rocks? Is that an approved fire ring? Are there certificates?
Yeah. I would like more like if you go to a state campground or something like that. That's ideal. If you're out on the side of the river or something like that, what we encourage people to do is to have, actual earth that we're building fires on. And like the campfire I was just describing to you is built right on a bunch of moss and duff, and there were tree roots, and it burned down and started getting into the duff and the roofs and roots, and that's why I didn't go out. And so, really you want to have a natural earth basin or a container or something that's going to keep that fire from getting into that under duff and material, because fire can, burn for a long time. I mean, there's fires in Alaska that burn through the winter in that type of material and pop back up every year. That's how serious this is. And a really good place to find information on fires right now in Alaska is akfireinfo.com. If you go to akfireinfo.com, that website actually has information on media releases and Alaska wildland fire guides, and down towards the bottom is a FireWise guide. So for folks that are actually, there's a couple points to this. One is, if you're concerned about wildland fire on your property, the FireWise program has been something that we've been pushing for several years, and it's how to make your property safer in the event that a wildland fire were to occur. It talks about using burn barrels. It talks about a lot of information that will help people that want to go out and enjoy, the wilderness or burn leaves or whatever. It's a really good resource.
We'll put a link to that website here. I'll edit the post and then add it in there.
Perfect. Yeah, it's akfireinfo.com.
And there's one of the things that first responders and firefighters throughout the country and Alaska do is they want information to get out there. I think firefighting is one of the jobs that we don't want to go to work. We don't want to fight a fire. Please keep us home.
Absolutely. Information is important. And in a lack of information, a void of information, or even on a fire line, information can get out quickly. And the most accurate source of information are going to be these websites, and are done through the public information officers that are out there right now working hard to get the proper information out across the state of Alaska. So always try to find the legitimate source, and this website is a really great place to go for those media resources. We were talking earlier about fireworks, and I want to go back to that for a second, because again, Alaska's got a lot of wildland fires going on. We've got a lot of red flag warning. For those of you that don't know what that means, it basically means that we're in a serious, dangerous period of time to have a wildland fire in Alaska. And so there's another website I'd like to point people to right now for current information, and that is the Department of Public Safety's website, which is dps.alaska.gov. And if you go to that website, on the right-hand side is a message from the Commissioner of Public Safety. And as of July 2nd, there's an update here. They've updated the list but there are some communities in Alaska right now that are prohibited from the sale of fireworks and the use of fireworks. So suspension on all fireworks, and it's going to remain in effect for a bit here, possibly. So that's a good place to go look. Again, this was just updated yesterday, and the Western Alaska, Dillingham, Bethel, McGrath, Nome, Kotzebue, and surrounding communities, along with the Fairbanks North Star Borough, the Kenai Peninsula, the Matsu-Susitna Borough, Kodiak Borough, the Copper River Valley, including Glen Allen and south to Valdez, the Tanana Valley north of the Alaska Range, and to include the Panhandle, which is, of course, Skagway, Juneau, and Haines. Those are all currently under that suspension. I know just looking through social media and stuff that Juneau has I'm from Juneau originally, and we have this just amazing public fireworks display. And just reading through social media, of course, this ban is talking about us, the private citizens, the folks that don't have necessarily the professional training and stuff to go out and do it. I've read online that they're still going to do the public displays of fireworks. This is more the you and me. We're not supposed to go out and buy fireworks and use those fireworks during the suspension.
It can be really hard if you're concerned about safety, and all your friends and your family like, we're going to do these fireworks. Like, what are some tips you would give to someone to speak up, to advocate for not observing the ban?
Well, I guess the thing is, of course, we all like to celebrate, and Alaska, and we enjoy our independence, of course. But again, the resources of Alaska are stretched really thin, and our ability to quickly respond, is being tasked right now pretty heavily. And so, think about not only yourself but your neighbors. Not too many years ago, we had a massive fire down in the Matsu that was caused by some individuals that burned up, several hundred homes. And so your actions can not only impact you but your neighbors. And anymore, the state of Alaska is seeking restitution. If you cause a wildland fire, you may end up paying for those resources that come to put that fire out. So it's it's about community and celebration, but when we have these suspensions, unfortunately, fireworks just aren't going to be a part of that.
You study,
of course, we always have our winter fireworks too, right?
You study the science of fire, how fire behaves. It's almost a living creature. How does fire move so quickly?
Well, it's energy, right? I mean, fire is literally energy. It's a process of oxidation. It's just rapid, more rapid than rust. What's changing in the world is how we build homes and the materials that we have in our homes. My parents, if you were to be in their homes in the 40s, the couch was most likely leather or cotton and stuffed with natural fibers, which really didn't burn as quickly as the synthetics and the hydrocarbon-based products that we see. The amount of energy release that we see in fire today can be double, triple, quadruple what it was before. And so what we're seeing is rapid fire development, less time for people to get out. And that's why we encourage people to sleep with their doors shut. We encourage people to have 2 ways out, to practice those ways to get out, because we just don't have the time that we used to have. And furthermore, these fires are burning hotter and more intense. The materials that we're building homes out now with are not the dimensional lumber that my grandparents had in their home. Now today we have wood that the grain isn't as tight, and even some of the types of products in building construction today are literally pieces of wood glued together, and you don't even have to have the fire touch the glue. You can have that glue separate with just the heat from a fire. And so as a firefighter, it's becoming more dangerous because we're seeing rapid building collapses. We're seeing rapid development, hotter fires, faster fires. And so it's really important that people practice those fire safety things that we just talked about, as far as, having 2 ways out, practicing those, because you have less time to get out, and knowing what to do if there's a fire.
And there's resources. You've got some resources available through the university, and the other resources that you mentioned, you can find some of those prep materials, get your stuff all ready to go. What's it like as a firefighter to slide down that fire pole?
It's interesting because, with liability and regulatory things, the fire pole is kind of gone away in a lot of fire stations, being replaced by the fire slide. So we go to any local playground and pretend to be a firefighter, slide down the slide. But yeah, no, it's exhilarating. You know, the Fairbanks Fire Department, I think their fire pole is almost 3 stories tall, and it's pretty exciting to go down a fire pole.
It looks pretty. What about the other one I know people want to know about is the Firehouse Dog?
Firehouse Dog. Oh yeah, the Dalmatian. You know, it's interesting about the history of the Dalmatian. Dalmatians were originally used in the fire service to protect the firefighters and the fire apparatus, because back in the day, you know, we were, you know, paid by the insurance companies to respond to fires. And so there was kind of a competition to see which fire truck would get there first. But we also had stray dogs and things like that in the neighborhoods. And so the Dalmatian was a very protective animal of the horses and of the firefighters. So that's kind of where that connection with the Dalmatian came from.
It's an amazing history. I encourage people to go research the history of firefighting in America and the world, and the technologies and the culture and all that sort of stuff. And I think all of us, I'm sure you hear it, but it can't be said enough how much we really, really appreciate all of the people that work as first responders and firefighters, putting your lives on the line for the community. So thank you for that. So I think a general thing for this weekend is just don't have a fire and don't have fireworks.
Yeah, you know, pay attention to the information. The fireworks are banned in most of the major communities, and if you are going to have a fire, you know, it's best in a campground. But of course, if you know, the news comes out that it's not okay to have a fire, then please respect that. Just because you know, we are having a very big wildland fire season in Alaska right now, and our resources are stretched pretty thin.
I did think of just one more question here. What should if we're going to a campsite, it's a state campsite, there's going to be a fire ring, what sort of stuff should we bring to fight the fire ourselves if something goes wrong? What should we bring? Extinguishers? Should we just call 911 right away? Like, when do you not fight the fire yourself?
Well, you know, that is a good question, and I think that each of us are going to have our own take on that. Obviously, any fire department, any wildland agency would tell you, you know, don't endanger yourself. We have the equipment and the tools and the personnel to come and deal with those things, and that's important. And so early notification is really critical. Call 911, get help coming. You know, me personally, I have a water jug and a shovel handy, so that I can not only put the fire out, the campfire, when I'm done, but I can stir it around with a shovel and just really make sure those embers are out before I leave. If a fire were out of control, then, you know, of course, if I felt comfortable, and my comfort level might be a little bit greater than others, but if I felt comfortable with that, then, you know, a shovel and water and just really opening up what's burning and accessing it is important with the types of fires you would have with a campfire. But get help coming. That's the most important thing.
Call and then keep yourself safe. Call for help and keep yourself safe.
You know, predictable is preventable, right? So if we think there's going to be a problem, then maybe we just hold off this weekend and enjoy a fire maybe when things get a little wetter and cooler.
I like that. Predictable is preventable. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for educating. Thank you for taking care of all of us. And thanks for taking the time to talk to me today, John. I appreciate that.
You bet. Happy 4th, everyone.